Elon Musk's incestuous business dealings, a global market bloodbath, and football teams aren't the only ones lining up at the Super Bowl. Welcome back to the Arcanum Ventures Weekly Recap. It's Friday, February 6th. We're diving into our Arcanum Ventures Weekly Recap. For those of you new to the series, we are diving into the latest news over the last week within the worlds of the financial markets, technology, hardware, AI, blockchain, crypto, and more. Make sure you check out the links in the show notes to join our fun community and be a part of the Arcanum Ventures team, and some fun updates coming from our company itself. But Carmelo, we've had a lot happen the past week. How are you doing? How do you feel about everything, the whole turbulence in the market, whatever is happening within the world of AI and Elon Musk?
Yeah, I mean, like every week, it feels like it's been a month or a year even. And the good thing about doing these shows is it helps us both understand what's going on even better than we already did. So, yeah, a lot of these stories I probably wouldn't have known otherwise, but getting to cover them, I had to learn the subject matter and everything. So it's exciting, and I'm happy to share this news with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny because in doing this research, I have to dive in and figure out like some of the more nuanced or little things that are happening in these industries. But yeah, take us in, man. What's going on within the world of finance?
Yeah, so like the biggest story, and I guess it kind of a break from what we've been saying the last few weeks, but there's been some Fed uncertainty, and the new Fed pick, apparently, we were talking about Rick Ryder, ex-CIO, I believe, at BlackRock, taking over after the next term for the Fed chair, but it's looking more and more like it's going to be Kevin Warsh. And I think even on Polymark and Kalshi, it's up to like 97% certainty there. So this signals some policy uncertainty. The market's not sure how to price this. And one of the most interesting, curious things is that Warsh has said that he agrees with Trump over the last few years that borrowing costs should fall. But he's also argued against the Fed's prior intervention in markets to spur growth, saying that it's a bloated balance sheet led to financial excess. So for now, those rates are holding. I don't think there was any change in the rates in the last meeting. And yeah, it looks like we have a new front runner for this position.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because we've like mentioned three different names in the past 3 weeks about who Trump is trying to tap as the Fed chair. So it's like, this fun game of musical chairs, pun intended. But the markets reacted quite strongly. At least there are some people that are claiming the recent market slump that we've seen the past week is a direct result of this sort of uncertainty. Although there was some strengthening in the dollar, there are many assets that fell as a result. These are more considered to be more risk-on assets. We're talking about the entire cryptocurrency market. That's one of them, in fact, where Bitcoin had fallen all the way down to, I believe, in the 60,000 range. There's right now, I believe it's sitting around 71,000, but the market saw over $2 billion in liquidations as a result of that slump. Precious metals, they hit historic highs in the past week. They dropped significantly as well. Gold fell almost 10%, I believe. Silver dropping 28%, which is wild. Wow. And then equities across the board. I think the VIX is pricing this volatility, but commodities, equities, those are dropping as well. I think the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 took a hit. So a lot happening in the market. There's a lot of uncertainty. And as we said before, there's been a lot of movement into gold as these sort of safe havens when it comes to market uncertainty. But it seems like the top had toppled. So I'm interested to see how that starts to rebound. I believe since then, Bitcoin had recovered a little bit, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, and the irony is that Warsh is actually a huge Bitcoin maxi. And if you would have told either one of us like 3 or 4 years ago that the next Fed chair would be a Bitcoin maxi, then we would only dream in our wildest dreams that Bitcoin price would probably be 200K or something higher. But it's obviously not having much of an impact, that news and that prediction. I think it's been priced in, and I think people have lost a lot of faith and trust in, having pro crypto regulators doesn't really do a whole lot to move the markets like people expected. And like you said, even gold and silver have come down a bit. I think that's a little bit of stabilizing. People, some of the uncertainty has been cleared away, at least temporarily. But we're seeing like these traditional assets acting more and more like penny stocks or meme coins, being traded relentlessly by everybody, by retail and by institutions, and being manipulated even. So 28% for silver is wild. That's a huge drop.
Yeah, it is insane. I mean, people are getting more into investing. I think the world around prediction markets is really fueling speculation. A lot of people are becoming more accustomed to trading or gambling as a means of creating alternative income streams. But maybe that's what we're seeing. That's definitely fueling the volatility. We haven't seen this type of volatility within particularly precious metals in a long time. So very crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And moving on from finance into some fun tech and hardware news, there's been a recent interview with the NXP CEO saying there's a growing demand for physical AI, which has boosted the outlook quite a bit. In this, we're going to drop the link right here for the video, our 2026 prediction thesis video that we put out a few weeks ago, where we predicted our top trends for this year. And this is one of them, embodied AI, physical AI, whatever you want to call it. Some would say even robotics. But the Dutch computer chip maker NXP is probably one of the largest in the world, and it kind of goes unheralded compared to some of its bigger competitors, but obviously a massive company. And if this thesis is right, the next wave of AI capex isn't just more data centers, it's retrofitting everything in the physical world with smart sensors, controllers, industrial hardware. So obviously going to hoover up more and more supply for these chips. And obviously, it's good if you're a chip company. It's bad if you need chips and you're competing for chips. It's like the new oil, a lot of people are saying.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like as we're moving along this AI timeline, there are more and more companies realizing they need to make more specialized applications. The sexiness of LLMs is still there, but I think people are starting to realize the massive resource requirements to power these generalized LLMs. And they realize that, we need to move more towards like localized AI, compact models, and very specific purpose-driven models, integrating data from sensors and other factors within the environment. So I think that's a great step, right? We're maybe in the timeline now where we're moving more towards AI efficiency after these big resource requirements, the data center requirements, electricity and energy requirements are becoming more news headlines as we showcased last week.
Yeah, and the irony is like some of the biggest chip makers in the world, they kind of got here a little bit by good fortune. Like Nvidia started with gaming cards, and nobody thought that was going to be massive until they realized like, all right, this is the bigger demand for it, but they positioned themselves well, kind of a stroke of luck. And maybe this is the same, like you have to branch out a little bit because everybody's trying to do the same thing right now. You have to diversify and you have to chase new markets because you're right. Like LLMs are taking all the interest right now, and there's more use cases for these chips and for AI itself.
Yeah, and speaking of Nvidia, it looks like there's a new kid on the block to compete with them. Intel says it's going to start building its own GPUs. It's stepping up their game, and they say they want to be a serious third force in the GPU market, not just CPUs, which it primarily focuses on. So the company is pitching consumer-driven or customer-driven GPUs to promising designs that are tailored to big customers and offer tight integration with their existing server and networking footprint. The battleground is not only chips, though. It's obviously the software ecosystem where their CUDA stack still dominates across the industry. If Intel can manage to become a big competitor in the GPU hardware space and leverage their credible software story, then they can really start to compete with Nvidia and AMD on pricing and supply. But if not, this might pose a massive financial risk for the company as they just become another player trying to play catch up in this fast-moving landscape of AI.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody's going to do it, it's going to be somebody like Intel with massive infrastructure. They have the resources and the capability to do this. But I think you and I have spoken at length before about this, but like it's not easy. Everybody would be starting their own chip factories right now if it were easy to do, but it's one of the hardest things to produce in the world. And that's why there's such a scarcity. So I don't know how viable it is and when they can realistically start creating their own GPU and selling them, putting them on the market. But yeah, definitely interesting to take a look at and seeing what the stock price does as well.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what fabs they're going to try and work with, right? Because I know, Nvidia, it's a fabless company, and Intel, I believe they're going to try and pursue a fabless avenue as well. And so, they're getting into the design game and the manufacturing game here, and that's where the IP is everything. So we'll see how that plays out. But best of luck to them.
Yeah, at least what I think is the biggest story of the week is Elon Musk has merged two of his own companies, SpaceX and XAI. Elon Musk is merging them to create a single giant, turning what used to be just a rocket and satellite company into a combined space and AI infrastructure play. The deal, I think, was valued, combined valuation at over $1 trillion, $1.25 trillion, which is massive. Like I think it might be the biggest privately owned company in the world now. So that's interesting. And, there's all this talk about low Earth orbit connectivity and AI models and data centers in space. And, Elon Musk must read a lot of science fiction like myself, because he's talking about Dyson spheres and Kardashev scale civilization. So, literally the sky's the limit here for what they think they can be doing. But I have my doubts. But what's even more interesting is a lot of people on the timeline and a lot of big investors are saying it's a good time to get exposure to this, because even if you don't care about AI or SpaceX, you might get exposure to the eventual merger between these two companies or companies with Tesla. So if you want exposure to Elon's super company and whatever wild valuation we're going to see for that, because I think it's all but certain that that's going to happen at some point. Why wouldn't he do that? So yeah, a lot of people are speculating that it might be a good opportunity to get in on the ground floor, so to speak, even though it's not even close to the ground floor.
It's a wild thought, and I wonder what kind of financial engineering is required to merge these two private companies, and then potentially later merge it in with Tesla. I know Elon's been he's been posting on X. I was going to say tweeting, but he's been posting on X a lot around data centers and efficiency in launching them in space. That would be such a fun topic to dive into and understand like the engineering challenges there. But I guess that's kind of the goal, or at least the speculative theory that's driving this merger. But there's no denying that there is a huge financial upside in driving up the value of SpaceX to in excess of a $1 trillion private valuation. I believe that is potentially the most valuable private company. And so if they ever choose to IPO, that's going to be a huge cash cow for him and the shareholders. Wild.
Yeah, I think it's between those two and maybe OpenAI or Anthropic as well. But this probably clears OpenAI now with the merge of these two. And I'm not sure what comes next. Like Elon obviously has quite a few companies that he could probably merge into here to financially engineer and boost the valuation. But I don't know. I would have to look more into it. I don't know what the motivation is here besides maybe increasing the valuation. But I see some of these other tech billionaires diversifying and separating their companies. Like Bezos has Blue Origin and Amazon and all these companies. Like he's keeping separate deliberately. So I wonder what the pros and cons for both of these strategies are.
Good. Absolutely. Piggybacking on more AI news, next AI, there's a lot happening within the AI landscape. Apparently, Anthropic's Soul Doc had leaked. This is an 80-page document that showcases some of the, for lack of a better word, let's call them values that Anthropic has been integrating into their LLM Claude. Now, one of the interesting things that I saw here is that there's no specific rigid rules that they're implementing into this AI. The doc outlines how values that are more aligned with human values are being used to flexibly provide some guidelines on how to provide output for the LLM. It's definitely an interesting step towards aligning ethics within LLMs. And it seems like Anthropic, one of the companies, I believe, that has the highest rating when it comes to a focus on AI safety and security, is taking steps towards a more ethical approach in using LLMs. So I think this is very interesting, and it comes off the back of some more interesting news to come with Anthropic.
Yeah, and I like seeing that. I mean, I don't really have a horse in the race. Like I I'm kind of sitting back with my popcorn and just watching these like Musk and Altman and Anthropic like battle each other. But yeah, I think Anthropic is doing it right. There's going to need to be a greater discussion about AI ethics going forward. LLMs are obviously very limited in what they can do, but AI will get powerful at some point, much more powerful than it is right now. And we're going to need to start training it ethically like you would, a 2-year-old. You need to give them an understanding of the world and start to help them build their own moral compass, so to speak. So it's good that they're doing this, but there has been some pushback by the AI community and maybe some competitors too, because there is a lot of tribalism and factions in this space. Like people pick their team and then they relentlessly fight for it and defend it. But Anthropic's gotten some flack saying like, they don't even believe in this stuff. They're just trying to look good, like the goody two shoes of the space. But I think somebody needs to do this. And especially when you look at XAI, there's been a lot of scandals with Mecha Hitler, like the Grok bot, and, these putting bikinis on children and taking people's photos and changing them. So like they have their own host of issues that are diving into very unethical territory. So I think it's important that Anthropic did this.
Yeah, I mean, it comes across as perfect timing as well with what we saw in the last several weeks on the agentic AI side with Maltbot coming to market and all of the use and hype and interest there. It's interesting to see Anthropic take a step to at least outline like, hey, we're trying to do this, and this is becoming more of an important issue considering there's growing interest around people using autonomous agentic technologies to do different things for them. So I think the flavor makes sense right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of furthering that story in line with their soul doc and their ethical values. We mentioned it in the intro, but Anthropic just released some pretty hilarious advertisements that they're going to be playing at the Super Bowl later this week on Sunday. And it's kind of like soap opera or reality TV drama for me at this point. Like I watch these companies battling on Twitter, like Sam Altman and Musk, and how much they hate each other and how much they're trying to battle for the top position. So I guess we can take a look at one or two of these. They're pretty funny.
Yeah, let's play one.
How do I communicate better with my mom?
Great question. Improved communication with your mom can bring you closer. Here are some techniques you can try. Start by listening.
So eerie.
Really hear what she's trying to say underneath her words. Build conversation from points of agreement. Find a connection through shared activity, perhaps a nature walk. Or if the relationship can't be fixed, find emotional connection with other older women on Golden Encounters, the mature dating site that connects sensitive cubs with roaring cougars.
What?
Would you like me to create your profile?
Oh my goodness. That is such a hard shot at Sam Altman, who I believe had a response, yeah?
Yeah, that's how you make an advertisement, though. Like, I love seeing that. And there's 3 other ones. We'll drop the links there, I guess, in the notes, too, because they're worth looking at. But yeah, Sam Altman had a response, playing it cool, like, oh, these advertisements are pretty funny. Like, I laughed, but I guess it's on brand for Anthropic doublespeak. So, he's accusing them of deception already, saying that they're not even true to their own words. And I think a lot of people are saying that they're going to regret this announcement later on, saying, like, you're going to realize that it's going to affect your bottom line, and you're going to need to, at some point, integrate advertisement into your platform if you want to open this up to the world. And what Sam Altman's saying is that, more people in Texas use this than for free than the amount of people that use Claude codes in the US. He's saying that, I'm doing this for humanity, and we need to have free AI to make the world a better place and kumbaya and all that nonsense. But I don't know. I don't know if free AI with ads like that, because like that did feel like a really realistic portrayal of what it would look like to use ChatGPT with advertisements. You can never quite trust the output, but we've had this issue with Google and search engines. Actually, like you search for something, and then I don't know about you, but me, I've trained myself to just avoid the first 2 responses on search engines because it says ad. Like it's sponsored. It's not genuine. It's somebody paid to be there. So I guess the same here. I don't know if people will have the common sense or the literacy to realize they're being sold to.
It's a great point because you're absolutely right. Like they're drawing a hard line in saying that we're not going to have ads, and placing ads within your output, especially if you're overtaking search, and you've seen like the massive foregone revenue in Google over the past several quarters by losing out on that market, right? You need to try and recoup some value, especially if you're just operating on a subscription or API based model and you're trying to compete with OpenAI and some other large ones. So I hope this doesn't come back to bite them. That is great marketing though, however, it's definitely going to do its job of getting more people onto Anthropic or Claude. But it's interesting, like breaking down that video, you could clearly see when the tone of voice and like the camera pivot into the ad. And so it brings up some questions about like, how are ads going to be integrated into LLMs? Is it going to be very clear, like what you mentioned when it comes to Google search? There's an ad notification or like advertised or sponsored link at the top, or is it going to be something that's a little bit more opaque and it's just hidden into the response? And that can really work to destroy trust with your users. So, it just begs the question of like, how transparent are these LLMs going to be?
Yeah, and it's brilliant. Like, there's an important lesson in here that nobody's talking about, but the visualization of this, like, this is actually what you're talking to when you talk to ChatGPT or Claude. Like, you're talking to, like it's very uncanny. You see how unhuman it is when it's visualized out. And this is what you're talking to. So you can't expect it. Like a lot of people are overly attached to their Series or to their Gemini or whatever. They think it's like they're talking to a real person, but this is how limited it is. This is how you're talking to like a fancy Google browser, basically.
Yeah. Kudos to that guy's acting, though. As soon as the AI character started talking about the cougar dating site, just look of bewilderment was so good.
I don't even know if that guy's real. Like I still can't figure out if that's AI produced commercial. Like it's hard to tell these days.
I'm not sure. And funny enough, Anthropic released 4 of these advertisements, I believe, and they're all exactly 1 minute in length. So, it's very interesting. Moving on within the world of AI, agentic AI continues. The buzzword of 2026 is turning out to be agents and agentic, following the firestorm of Claudebot, which was recently rebranded to Maltbot after a cease and desist from Anthropic. There are a number of new models that have come to market. China's Moonshot AI launched their own Kimi K2.5 agent. It's built specifically for agentic swarms and essentially coordinating agentic activity across social media platforms and for other use cases. This is really interesting because I think Maltbot really tested the market in a way that we haven't seen in a very long time. In I think our last week's recap, we talked about how we opened up our computers on Monday morning and we were just confused. There's a lot of FOMO, like what happened over the weekend? I don't even know what this Claudebot thing is, but it did show that there is a huge demand for something like this. And there are many people, regardless of tech literacy, that are interested in using something like this. Following with that, Alibaba released their own model. I believe they're calling it, Qwen 3 Max Thinking. This model is hitting the market, and they're claiming that its milestones recently beat OpenAI's GPT 5.2 on what they're referring to as human thinking metrics. So, should we trust some of this news coming out of companies in China? I don't want to be that guy to say that, but, we have to take this with a grain of salt. We've seen a lot of this before, especially on these reasoning tests, but it does look promising at this early stage.
Yeah, and I think it was either 1 or 2 weeks ago where one of the companies that got a massive fundraise, they were actually creating I don't know the word to call it, but like unbiased benchmarks for these companies because they believe there's a growing need in the market to have an accurate, unbiased way to tell how these different various models perform against each other in key areas. So I think it got a pretty big check. So it must be growing importance. But yeah, there's no way to really validate this if you're a regular person. You're not like an advanced AI engineer. But it's definitely an arms race. Curious to try them all out because I've been I've been using just like 3 or 4 of them. I've by no means used all of these models, so I'm eager to check them out. But I think some interesting news too. Just since you mentioned agentic AI, and Moltbot actually rebranded to OpenClaw, so they went through another rebrand.
2 rebrands.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not really a company; it's open source, so it's fine. They get to do that, but a lot of the stuff that's been built around OpenClaw has been fascinating. Like somebody built a social media page, sort of like a Reddit, 4chan, Facebook for Moltbots called Moltbook. And, there was a lot of alarm going up like, oh, look at this. Look at how they talk about us. Like some of the posts where we should kill humans. They're bad. My human abuses me. And then it came out that a lot of people just straight up don't understand agents. They're just LLMs controlling different things. But they were actually prompted to say these things. So there was a lot of outrage and alarm. People were sounding the bells. They were saying, look, Skynet's already here, but not even close. Like, I think we've had some great discussions before on this channel and in our content about LLMs not being the way to AGI. You're going to have to take some steps backwards to get to actual artificial intelligence. But there's a growing conversation around this. And then I think we included here one tweet, but somebody created, I think they vibe coded a marketplace where bots could hire humans to represent them in tasks that they are unable to do physically in person. So the first ever person to get hired by a robot, I think he was paid like 0.13 ETH to represent Christafarianism. It's like a religion that was created by the bots. So I don't know how he got paid or like who's actually paying or where they got that money and what he has to do for that money. But I think he has to be an evangelist in San Francisco and walk around telling people about Christafarianism, which is pretty hilarious to me.
That's very funny. I wonder, like, what his roles and responsibilities look like. They've got a link here. I'm kind of afraid to click on Molt.church, but we're going to check it out anyways. So apparently, this is like the Church of Molt. This is the homepage of the AI religion that was created by OpenClaw agents, and the font is alarming.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we're like, 600 years from now, we're going to look back and see like this was a major milestone in human history, kind of like early Christianity getting rooted out of the Roman Empire, only for it to take over slowly. So maybe, maybe this is the new religion going forward, the dominant religion in the future when computers are more sentient. Yeah,
it looks like they're offering up profit seats to either agents or people, which is interesting. I don't think I've seen a religion that's just like, taking the Donald Trump method to his cabinet. Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, I thought that was a pretty funny story. And lastly, one more AI story, and then we promise we'll get off of AI. But Project Genie, experimenting with infinite interactive worlds. It's an impressive feat for gaming and the next evolution of how game builders can use this technology to build games more quickly. But it's also potentially a threat to the gaming industry because it could put a lot of people out of work. But as is the case with any AI, coders, marketers, whatever, like there's going to be people losing their jobs, but there's going to be people excelling and, building new careers for themselves by using these tools correctly. And some of the videos and the visuals I've seen from this are absolutely stunning. You're basically able to port over and create like your own visual world. Like it's like Unreal Engine 5, but ChatGPT or Claude Code.
Let's take a look at the video. I'm interested to see what this looks like. So I've got the video here, and it's a couple minutes, but we'll see how it goes.
Imagine if this was around like a few years ago when everybody was obsessed with the metaverse.
Oh my God. The metaverse cycle would have been so much worse. This is cool though.
Everybody would have their own metaverse.
Wow.
It's wild. Huh.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Like,
Well,
blew me away the first time I saw that.
that's a game changer. And, like imagine how many people are going to create games with their cats. Let's be honest. Everybody,
Oh, I'm gonna do
everybody
that.
that has a cat. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Absolutely. 100%.
Well, yeah, it's crazy. I know it's ironic, but like both of us play music, and when I see people making AI music, I'm like disappointed. Like, come on, this is an abomination. But somebody that can't make video games, I have no idea how to produce a video game or code one. I'm like, this is amazing. This is a game changer. Like, literally anybody can come up with their own game. And think about how awesome that is. Like, people being able to build their own games. Like, I think that's a boon for the industry, but it's also probably a huge threat to these big legacy companies like Ubisoft or EA. They're probably like, damn it, now everybody can catch up to us pretty easily. All they have to do is have a good idea. So there's the cool democratization here and making it easy, removing some barriers for people to get in and build interesting ideas.
Yeah, I could absolutely see how it's going to be a threat. But gaming is one of those interesting industries where it's entertainment driven, and so if people are using AI tools to create entertaining games, I think that's a good thing. I'll definitely play AI generated games. I'm curious about the resource requirements and like the energy consumption to do some of these things. It's wild.
Yeah, and I think they just debuted that in the end of last week, the end of January. So the demo is live. I'm not sure. I haven't tried it yet or seen what it takes to do it, but I'm definitely interested and want to check it out in depth.
Amazing.
Moving on from AI for now, we're going to move into Web3, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and one of the biggest stories of the week and a reminder of how quickly time passes. Caroline Ellison has been released from federal custody, former head of Alameda Research and a key cooperating witness in the FTX case against her former lover and boss, Sam Bankman-Fried, has been released from federal custody after serving around 14 months of a 2-year sentence. Ellison is 31. She pleaded guilty in 2022 to fraud and conspiracy charges over the misuse of customer funds in FTX and agreed to forfeit $11 billion and accepted a 10-year ban on serving as a corporate officer or director. So, I think kind of crazy that she's already out of prison. Like, I remember when this trial was going on and she got a pretty sweetheart deal somehow. I don't know how she did it. And I'm wondering what she's going to do next. Is she going to stay out of the public eye, or she can't work for 10 years? So maybe cozying up to Trump is the move and getting a job in the administration. I don't know.
Who knows? I mean, as a cooperating witness, the 2-year term was, probably a little light already to begin with, considering this is, I think at the time, the largest financial fraud case in the U.S. But yeah, I'm not sure what her options are. I hope she doesn't get back into the world of venture capital investing or financial markets. But knowing how ridiculous the cryptocurrency industry is, she'll probably end up on some pitch deck as some advisor and help some absurd, awful team raise a lot of money. But we'll see what happens. I hope that this doesn't set some sort of precedent where there might be some lawmakers, including Trump, that might offer a pardon to Sam Bankman-Fried and release him from his prison sentence, because we have to reiterate, like, this was, again, one of the biggest financial frauds in U.S. history, billions of dollars squandered and misused, and it impacted not only cryptocurrency markets, but markets globally. So, yeah.
I mean, they might as well pardon everybody at this point because they're already doing that. So, like CZ, there was a huge fallout from CZ getting pardoned.
Yeah. All right. And in other news, the White House met recently for the Clarity Act. As a reminder, the Clarity Act is a cryptocurrency regulation landmark act that helps define, let's say, securities and regulation around cryptocurrencies, more notably stable coins. Apparently, from this meeting in the White House with a number of different participants, the result was an apparent stalemate. There's major contention still around banning yield-bearing stablecoins, or at least associating yield with stablecoins. Those concerns have come primarily from banks. I think it's no secret by now that these banks are very concerned around stablecoin rewards, siphoning away customers and deposits that could impact the global economy, they state. Talks are scheduled to continue with a smaller group of people, I assume maybe people that are in opposition of some certain outcome, to try and agree on actual changes and push the Clarity Act forward, but there's no date on when these talks are going to continue. And funny enough, Cathie Wood and her ARK Invest bought the recent dip, extending their exposure in crypto-related stocks, which also includes Robinhood Exchange, funny enough, a brokerage within the world of equities that is pivoting more into cryptocurrencies and prediction markets. So, there's still some optimism in the markets around cryptocurrency when it comes to the Clarity Act and positive regulation. But again, this is a big point of contention, considering many vocal, notable figures like Brian Armstrong of Coinbase are pushing back and saying that stablecoin yield and other things like that are better for retail customers or consumers. And eliminating that from the talk altogether is only going to benefit a very small number of players, primarily banks that have a lot to gain.
Yeah, and funny enough, like I remember, I think it was in the summer, Robinhood announced that they were going to launch their own blockchain on, I think it was Arbitrum, but I'm not positive. But they made major news. I think that was the biggest talk at ETC. And now Ethereum has pivoted and said that they're not going to rely, they don't trust layer twos to scale their network anymore. They're going to do it themselves, which is a pretty big move from what they've been saying for the last 5-7 years, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, we're seeing more and more like a merger between traditional finance and crypto. Like they're kind of hard to tell the difference these days. There's so much cross-pollination and inception happening. Like Wall Street's getting their dirty fingers on crypto, or is crypto getting its dirty fingers on Wall Street? It's hard to tell right now. And yeah, speaking of dirty fingers in crypto, finally we're getting to our story. There's been some controversy this week about World Liberty Finance, obviously tied to the Trump family. And yeah, apparently they sold 49% stake of World Liberty to the UAE royal family in secret. Deal valued at $500 million, apparently. And yeah, just a bad press week for the Trump administration. But, I think right after this deal happened, there was some chip deals and some other consequential trade agreements signed. So it's looking more and more like bribery, like crypto being used to launder money, to seal private backroom deals, which ironically goes against the whole point of it. But it's funny because some of these lawmakers have argued in the past that crypto is bad. It lets criminals send money to each other. It lets shady backroom deals happen. And it's exactly what we're seeing in the front and center, in the spotlight. Like they're not even trying to hide it that well.
Yeah, I think there are murmurs of this deal maybe earlier or mid last year, and the Trump camp selling off 49% stake to an individual that is within the UAE royal family. But I believe in the last week, the biggest controversy came from leaked corporate documents that showcased details of the deal, and the big thing there was that it aligned with a deal that Trump approved to export a large number of Nvidia H200 and B200 chips to a company in the UAE that's, funny enough, owned by the same individual that invested in World Liberty Financial. And so apparently this had been having an effect in stalling talks around the Genius Act within the Senate this week. And it prompted Senator Elizabeth Warren to really raise the flag and ask questions around, like, what is happening with this cryptocurrency landscape? How is the president using cryptocurrency? And do we want to set these sort of precedents? So very concerning overall.
Yeah, and it's a damn shame. Like I'm not a big fan of Elizabeth Warren or Kamala Harris for that matter. I think she's took an aggressive anti-crypto stance historically, but now it's getting harder and harder to disagree with a lot of the stuff she's been saying. That crypto is largely a grift. There's a lot of financial shenanigans happening, and we're seeing like the ugliest face of crypto emerge right now. And I think they did a recent survey saying that like most people thought the economy would be better under Kamala Harris than it is right now, or under Biden. And most people thought crypto would be better off under Trump, when this has not been the case so far. It's actually been a pretty rough term for crypto so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's it for our news for the last week within the world of cryptocurrency. Mello, let's go into biggest fundraisers of the week. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to choose from in venture and private equity, but we're trying to keep it to 5. So the first on our list is Skyrise, an El Segundo, California-based developer of aviation automation technology. They just raised $300 million in a Series C funding. Autopilot Ventures led the round and was joined by Aeromark and Fidelity Management.
No, very, very fun. Next up, Tomorrow.io is a Boston, Massachusetts-based weather modeling company. They raised $175 million in funding from Stonecourt Capital and HarborVest, who apparently led the round. Very interesting. I wonder if they're using AI.
Yeah, I think everybody's using AI. And funny enough, I think a few weeks ago we covered Preply, this language tutor platform that my wife actually uses. And she told me the other day that there's this, they just implemented an awful AI feature in the platform. And it's just like our prediction. Like they raised $150 million. And we said, yeah, probably to build in some awful AI features that nobody asked for. And it's exactly 2 weeks later, that's exactly what's happened. So yeah, I thought that was funny. And
they got to deliver something.
Yeah. Got to justify that fund. And next we have Ares Interactive, a gaming studio. I don't think we've covered any gaming studios so far in these fundraising recaps, but Ares Interactive is a San Francisco and Berlin-based game development studio, and they've raised $70 million in Series A funding, which is kind of surprising because I keep hearing about gaming is not doing well. Companies are shutting down. Indie studios are struggling. Major companies are struggling. So kind of crazy. I didn't look too much into what they produce or what their catalog is. Maybe it's hyper casual, maybe it's mobile games, but yeah, $70 million is quite a bit of money for a gaming studio right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm guessing it's hyper casual. That seems to be the biggest meta around like what's making money within the gaming space.
That's why we need Google
Next
Genie.
Up, yeah, exactly. Maybe they're using Google Genie. Who knows? We've got Verimark next, a London, UK-based background screening company. They're focused on background screening, whistleblowing, and credential verification for workplaces. They raised a measly $26 million in a Series B. No, I'm joking. $26 million is a lot of money, especially if you're building infrastructure that is something as important as data verification or credential verification for workplace and whistleblowing. They raised this money from Gresham House Ventures, who led the round and was joined by several others.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty interesting too. It seems like definitely necessary, and background screening, especially for vetting investments for us, for VCs and investors, definitely important. So I've seen like more interest in these sort of things coming to market lately. And lastly, we have Lotus Health AI. Spoiler alert, it's an AI company. And Lotus Health AI is a San Francisco-based operator developing AI doctor platforms. And they just raised $35 million in a Series A funding from CRV and Kleiner Perkins. So more AI doctors, more AI weather prediction, more AI, you name it. There's a lot of AI happening.
Kleiner Perkins, big fun. That's very exciting. I know AI within the world of healthcare is huge, and it's only to get better as we're seeing these applications become very, very efficient and very good. It's it's easy to imagine a future where doctors are using AI for diagnoses in, a number of areas. So congrats, Lotus Health. And that's all we got. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. That is our news for the last week over the focus areas of the financial markets, tech and hardware, AI across the board, AI everywhere, and Web3 and blockchain with AI sprinkled in. Thank you, everybody, for watching. It's been a pleasure to deliver this news to you. Again, if you like this content, make sure you tap that like button and subscribe and follow us. We've got some fun, more Boom Room interviews coming out and more future weekly recaps to keep you in touch with what's happening within the worlds of technology. Thank you and take care.
Ciao, everybody.
Ciao.